constantly on my mind all the time, Greg, and I never stop thinking about you. There isn't a day go by where I don't stop thinking of you, and I don't stop loving you. I feel that as I got to know him, he was telling me in a roundabout way that he wanted to be other than just friends with me, and I realized that thinking back. You know, he was only 10 years old, and I was 8 at the time. I remember he told me a story about him and his brother. I don't even know if I should be repeating this, but here goes. His brother and him used to take a bath together. His mother would supervise and watch them both in the bathtub. Well, when she left the room while they were washing or what have you, Greg's brother Jason put his foot in between Greg's legs and he played with Greg's testicles under the water. And Greg liked it, and he told me about this. And then Greg did the same thing to his brother Jason. His brother was named Jason, by the way. He took his foot and started playing with his brother Jason's testicles. And he said he really enjoyed it. And he told me this with such glee in his eye. And he looked up and he said to me, "I wish I could do the same thing to you." I was shocked. As an 8-year-old, I mean, I've thought about all these things that were going on, but I was really shocked when he said that to me. And I knew right there and then and there, maybe he has got other kinds of feelings toward me. And I was just like, whoa, I was totally bowled over. He said he liked it when his brother played with his testicles with his toes. His brother put his testicles in between his toes, and he just yanked on Greg's testicles with his toes. And Greg liked it. So Greg did the same thing to his brother in the bathtub. Greg put his foot in between his brother Jason's legs and started yanking on his brother Jason's testicles. And they would do this, and he told me about it with such glee in his eyes. And I was just amazed at how he would, how he'd talk about it without not any, and he smiled as he was telling me about this incident. Then there was another time when we were in class. His desk was behind mine. He'd constantly put his foot up into my pant leg, and he'd scratch my leg with his toes to get my attention. And then he'd look at me and he'd smile. And he must have done this to me about 2 or 3 times. As our friendship because we got very close toward the end. He was just, I could not believe. And then, like I said, on my birthday was the crescendo. My 9th birthday was the crescendo of him and me together. Greg, we went up into the attic. All my other friends went home, and it was just him and me. He came late because he was playing soccer at Artemis Park. That's what he told me. So we went upstairs to the attic. We had a big house, and there was an attic there. And we went up into the attic, and he sat on there was an old mattress with a bed on there, and it was so hot. It was ridiculously hot. You couldn't sleep up because the heat was just always, it was overwhelmingly hot. So anyway, we went up to the attic and sat on the mattress, and he started telling me things. I looked out the window, and he looked out the window, and I put my arms around him and I kissed him on the cheek, as I had done so many other times. And he said to me, my mother has never kissed me or told me that she loved me. I was totally flabbergasted when he admitted that to me. He said, my mother shows no affection to me whatsoever. I said, Greg, you're kidding me. She said, no. He said, my mother doesn't show me any affection. So I said, you are absolutely wonderful. I said, you're a wonderful little guy, and I love you so much. And I didn't care. So you know what I did? I reached over and I kissed him again, but this time I kissed him on the lips. And he kissed me. We were sitting on the mattress of that old bed up in the attic, looking out the window, and then he looked over and kissed me. For the first time, he kissed me back. He said, "I love you too." He said, I then told him for the summer that I had to go to England. And I'm not sure if I'm coming back or not. And he started to get a little bit emotional at that time. The time we really got emotional was the last day we spoke to each other, which was June of 1977. That was the last time we spoke. We were outside on the schoolyard in Battlefield Senior Elementary. And he asked me, he said, "Are you going to church?" I said, "No, I'm not going to church. I'm leaving the country." I told him I'm not. I said, "I'm not going back to church anymore because I got a feeling," I said, "I want to break free of this Christian BS." And he said to me, and then he burst out crying. I had never seen anybody, he cried so deep and so bad. He was just crying and crying and crying and crying. And I could not control it. I couldn't stop him. And because there were so many kids out there, I couldn't hug him or tell him I was sorry. I love him, and I haven't stopped thinking of him to this day. I think Greg secretly had gay feelings for me, but he just did not know how to show it. The things he said to me gave me the impression that and the things he did. Especially when he told me that story about him and his brother playing with each other's testicles in the bath. That sounded a little weird to me. I wasn't ready to hear that. But when he told me that he put his foot in between his brother's legs and started yanking on his testicles with his toes in between his brother's testicles, I kind of was shocked. I didn't know quite how to take this. I said, "Why, Greg, why are you telling me this?" Greg said, "I'd love to do that to you." He said, "I'd like us to take a bath together, and I'd like to do that to you." And I'm like 8 years old, and I'm listening to this with bated breath. And my eyes got wide. I had a wide open stare when he was telling me this. He wanted me to take a bath with him. And I was 8 years old, and he was 10. And he said he wanted to put his foot in between my legs and yank on my testicles with his toes, put his toes in between my testicles and yank on them. I've never had any kind of, this kind of revelation kind of blew my mind when he said this to me. I said, "But Greg," he said, "I want to be with you and I don't care." He said, "My mother shows me no affection. My mother treats me like I'm not even there." He said, "She locks me in a closet with a Bible and a flashlight, and she's so afraid of appearances or how things look." What broke my heart was seeing him cry his heart out that day on the schoolyard. And then my mom's car pulled up, and I had to get in. She drove a little green Austin Marina at the time, and I was 10 years old. I got in there, and I told my mom the whole story. I never mentioned about the bit in the bathtub with him and his brother. I didn't mention that to her. I've kept this a secret all these years, and I've never told anyone about that. I still love him very much, and he's still on my mind. And Greg, this one's to you. For you, from me, Jason. I love you very much. Greg Gautier, I love you. Happiness is to serve the Savior, living a life that's in His favor, making a change in my behavior. Happiness is the Lord. Real joy is mine, no matter if teardrops start. I found the secret, I let Jesus change my heart. Happiness is a new creation, Jesus in me, in close relation, having a part in His salvation. Happiness is the Lord. Real joy is mine, no matter if teardrops start. I found the secret, I let Jesus change my heart. Happiness is to be forgiven, living a life that's worth the living, taking a trip that leads to heaven. Happiness is the Lord. Happiness is the Lord. Happiness is the Lord. I love you, Greg Gautier, and I'll never stop telling you that. I hope one day you see this video, because I hope that one day we can get together and that we can be a couple and live as a couple. I dream of that time. I dream of being with you as a partner, as a male partner. I love you. You know, all the time, Greg kept asking me if I was homosexual. He kept saying to me, "Are you homosexual? Are you homosexual?" Because I kissed him and cuddled him a lot. I was only 8 years old and didn't want to admit to anything, but yes, I was a homosexual, even at 8 years old, and I discovered that I was 8 years old when I was at Greg's picnic, and they had an indoor swimming pool in there. We changed, and he wore a pair of blue Speedos, and I stared and stared and stared at him in these blue Speedos, and he was beautiful. His little body and his little feet, I wanted to kiss his feet. They were so cute. And I was 8 years old, and I was having these feelings. And I knew I was gay at 8, because those feelings started at 8 years old.